Good evening. It's Tuesday, May 24th, 2022, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. If I could call the roll, please.
Mrs. Hassler.
Yes. Here.
Mrs. Stufen.
Present.
Mr. Kozinski.
Present.
Mrs. Troutman.
Here.
Mr. Collins. Mrs. Arvanitis.
Here.
And Mrs. Caforio.
Here, we have 6 board members present, 1 absent. If I could have a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the board move into closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. 5 ILCS 122C1, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. 5 ILCS 122C2, discussions of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06, 5 ILCS 122C21.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Troutman, second by Mrs. Arvanites. Please call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman.
Yes?
Mrs. Arvanitis.
Yes.
Mr. Kozinski.
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen.
Yes.
Mrs. Hassler.
Yes.
And Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 6 ayes, no nays, 1 absent. Motion passes. The board is in closed session. Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. It is Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. The board has been in closed session since 5:30 this evening for items listed on the agenda. Currently, we have 5 board members present and 2 absent. At this time, I would ask that we all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone. Before we start with our business this evening, I would like to take a moment to address the horrific events that have occurred today at an elementary school in Texas. There are no words to express the feelings that we all have when we see this type of news story. Our hearts go out to the families and friends of the 18 students and 2 teachers that were tragically taken today. Schools should be a safe and nurturing environment, and all children and staff deserve that. And so with grateful hearts that we're all here and we get to do the good parts of school, we'd like to begin our spotlights and recognitions. So we're going to ask the principal of Jackson Elementary School to come up and share some good things that are happening there. Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm Christine Trundle. I am the principal of Jackson Elementary School, and I'm delighted to be here today to celebrate the work of Jackson School from this school year. This evening, I have a few members of our instructional leadership team with me, Miss Katie Collins, our assistant principal, Mrs. Marta Cody, our EL specialist, and Miss Jess Vega, a first grade teacher at Jackson. This year, our focus has been on improving our writing instruction and our student outcomes in the area of writing. Our focus has been providing students with multiple opportunities to produce all different types of writing, to differentiate for all of the needs of our various students in writing through small group instruction in every classroom, and to increase the opportunities that students have to practice independent writing and apply what they learn. We determined that we would measure this goal at the end of this school year by having 75% of our students proficient in the writing standards on our standards-based report card. It took us a lot of work and a lot of dedication to narrow our focus to the area of writing. And it began last spring, in spring of 2021, when we began a cycle of inquiry approach and a root cause analysis to really find our areas for growth. We began a deep data dive into multiple data sources, and that led us into our work over the summer, including surveying our staff in their writing instruction, their perceived self-efficacy in the area of writing. And then we looked at trends, including celebrations and areas of need. It's important to note that we not only looked at student work samples and our staff surveys, but we also looked at past IAR scores in written expression, writing conventions, and our standards-based reporting data from last school year. In looking at all of our data, we knew that we needed to do some learning. So over the summer, we read a lot of research in the area of writing. We read the work of experts such as Jennifer Saravallo and John Hattie, and we collected more data. We looked at additional student work samples throughout our work. In August, our instructional leadership team came together and indulged in this professional learning as well. And then in August, when our staff returned, our instructional leadership team led the work with our staff so that we could come to a common understanding, an agreement, and a commitment to the work in the area of writing.
Hello. So we started the year with setting up short professional learning sessions during our late start. Thank you. The sessions were led by our instructional coach, which unfortunately she's not here today because she had a medical leave, but she was instrumental in planning and leading and co-teaching writing. So the sessions were led by the instructional coach, the instructional leadership team, our principal and our assistant principal. Our sessions focused on small group instruction, providing feedback, and instructional planning. Next, in our PLCs, we set short-term goals based on the team's needs, and we looked at students writing together to determine students' needs and strengths. We also have provided opportunities for peer observations, instructional coaching cycles, so our coach worked with every single grade level. We unpacked writing standards using the clarity process and determined the learning targets, success criteria, and academic vocabulary in writing. Finally, as an EL teacher, I plan lessons together with the classroom teachers and instructional coach to co-teach in the classroom. We focus on small group instruction and meaningful independent practice during co-teaching. So this allowed us to differentiate based on students' differences and their needs.
In addition to those steps, what we really wanted to do was leverage our instructional learning team so that this way it could go back and really reach all of our teachers, every single student, every single classroom. So we met up to 2 times a month, and during those meetings we did a lot of work, that was kind of noted as unpacking and kind of vertically aligning those standards. And we really did that by using student work, working together, going back to the table, going back to the teams, and then coming back together to really look at, is this working? Did we do this well? What are we missing? In addition to that, we really worked on creating common rubrics for our narrative, our opinion, and our informational writing at each grade level. And not only did we develop those, but we went back to the table, we aligned them, the teachers took them back to their classrooms, tried them out, seeing how they worked, bringing them back, using student samples to really look and make sure that what we created made sense and it matched what we were seeing and what we wanted to see from our students. As part of it, Christine and I also worked on visiting classrooms weekly and really targeting our visits during those writing instructional times. We wanted to see it in action. All of this work was going on, but it didn't mean anything if we didn't get to see it in action. So we really committed to that, and also visiting PLCs bi-weekly so that we could check in. How are things going? What did that actually look like in the classroom? And where do we need to go from there? Do we need to try something else? Do we need to do more learning in a certain area? Do we need to go back and try something else again? So we really took that information as a way to continue our learning and make sure our teachers and students were getting what they needed. Our last piece that we really used was just that ongoing reflection and progress monitoring. We reviewed the trimester 1 and trimester 2 SBR data to see how were we doing. We reviewed it with our ILT team. We reviewed it, we reflected, we looked back at the alignment to make sure we were still on the right track with things. We also continued to take staff feedback on how things were going, what did it look like on a day-to-day basis, did a focus group, and really gave that survey again that we had given previously a year ago to see what are things looking like now, which leads us into the information we received. So the best part of this is really seeing what that impact was. And what we found was that by spring break, we did see a huge increase in the number of teachers doing the following things. One, we saw that huge increase in meeting with small groups across multiple times per week, which was a huge shift and change for us. And seeing that in action, not only did we get that information saying it's happening, we saw it happening. We also had teachers who were providing students with feedback multiple times per week. We saw that they were providing students with that daily independent writing practice time, which, as you can imagine, can be hard to find in that day, but they were each finding that protected time for that. And I think one of the greatest things that we saw too was just that increase in that greater self-efficacy that the teachers felt in teaching writing and conducting that. And one of the big pieces that we got was that 88% of our teachers provided multiple opportunities for students to write narrative and informational pieces. We don't have information on opinion yet because that's trimester 3, which we are still doing the next couple days here. So that information we'll kind of look at when we are done with that 3rd trimester to see where we're at. But I think one of the great things to also just note in thinking about this is when we mean all staff, we mean all staff. we are including every special ed teacher, our EL teachers, our speech pathologists, everybody in there. So even when we're looking at this 88%, I think that's a huge, huge increase for us, knowing that we also have teachers such as our special education teachers or speech pathologists who don't see students multiple times. They might see them once a week. So even thinking about that, I think that number is a huge success for us. And the best part you'll see next is what that really looks like with our student writing.
Okay, some teacher testimonials. We noticed that smaller units of instructions and pieces of writing have helped us better understand our students as writers. We want to continue this work to keep up the excitement for teachers and students. Also, creating rubrics and unpacking standards were the most helpful. We were able to dissect the standards and teach in a logical progression. Paired with creating rubrics, we had clear expectations for grading. As a team, we were able to achieve this work through development of a common understanding of each standard using the teacher clarity process to unpack standards and creation and use of common rubrics as a team to assess student work. Teachers shared a commitment to our work in writing and visiting classrooms. You can see common structures and expectations for students. More specifically, with my first grade team, we were able to collaborate with our EL teacher as well as the instructional coach to help set specific goals for students to tailor small group instruction. We use a professional text called Teaching Writing in Small Groups by Jennifer Saravallo to help guide that. On the next slide, you'll see kindergarten writing. So from the beginning of the year to the April of kindergarten. In the beginning of the year, they are focused on drawing and writing 1 or 2 words to match their drawing. Their writing is more focused on writing a sequence of sounds to form a word or 2. Then as the year progresses, the kindergartners are developing their writing skills by writing complete sentences, spelling high-frequency words correctly, using turtle spelling, which is a strategy that we use, which they slowly stretch out the words to hear the sounds, adding transition words, give more detailed pictures, and improvement in their handwriting, so only putting capitals at the beginning of their sentences. And then moving on for first grade, this is the beginning of the year. You can see the student here has written a complete sentence using a sentence starter, phonetic spelling, spelling high-frequency words correctly, or almost correctly. This piece was done in 1 day, so the student also starts to add more details in their picture, which reflects their learning from kindergarten. As mentioned before, we were collaborating with the EL teacher and instructional coach, so we were able to see where to go, which moves on to our next slide, which in April, this is a first grade informational piece of writing. And as you can see, we went from 1 page to now multiple pages. And this is a multi-week writing process. During this unit, we use an online resource called Pebble Go to research a topic and guide the content of our writing. We continue to work on adding details to our pictures. We even added labels, which is a nonfiction text feature. The small groups focus working on capitals and punctuation. Again, because of co-teaching, we were able to meet with more students and meet their goals more effectively and also hone in on conventions. And then we did do multiple pages, but that was to get us, or to get the students prepared for second grade when they get into paragraph writing.
Okay, so while Jessica talked about the Jennifer Saravello progression, we can really see it. We can see the progression. This is 5th grade writing, which is longer and more complex. So this is the simple 5th grade writing from the beginning of the year is on the left, and on the right is the end of the year. So for the end of the year, students were comparing 2 stories and their theme. We integrated reading workshop and writer's workshop together. So students were reading and analyzing the stories during reader's workshop. And then during writing, students worked on stating their claim, providing reason and evidence from the text, and lastly, writing a conclusion. In small groups, we worked on elaboration, cohesive structure, writing paragraphs, and writer's craft. And finally, during the process, we together as a team, so including the classroom teachers and the coach and myself, we looked at all of the student samples and work to interpret the common rubrics.
Our work this year in the area of writing has really set a strong foundation for our teachers and our students. We look forward to looking at our end of year data to update our progress and to continuing our work next school year. Thank you.
Just before you walk away so quickly, just thank you so much for bringing us into the work that you're doing. It's very intentional in helping students improve outcomes, which is something we talk a lot about here, but it's great to see it in action. So thank you so much for all the work that you're all doing to help that happen for kids. So thank you. All right, next we have Dr. Bagdasarian to spotlight York High School. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Shadi Bagdasarian, and it is a privilege to be the principal at York High School. And before I get going with our presentation here tonight, I just want to thank Dr. Campbell and the board and the cabinet here for the support and guidance over the past couple of years. It's been very challenging, but we have so much to celebrate at York High School, regardless of the pandemic, regardless of the challenges that we faced. As a school, as a district, as a staff and faculty at York High School, we really persevered, and our students most importantly, and I'm going to show you the data, some of the data there, and kind of how we did that. And first and foremost, you know, we start with a very focused approach. Everything that we do, we look at the data. We want to be intentional and deliberate with what we're doing to make improvements at York High School, which is a comprehensive high school with so many great opportunities for kids. So the first thing we did is we came up with a vision statement last year as we sat down. You know, we keep saying, this is York, this is, well, what is York? You know, what is York really? What does it mean when we say, this is York? Well, we are an adaptable community committed to equity, engagement, and empowerment for all. This is York. So that's what it means when we say this is York High School. We want to make sure that we're providing equitable experiences for our students. We want to make sure that our students are engaged in school, both in class and then outside in the extracurriculars. And then also we want to empower our students, and we do that through assessment and providing feedback to our students so that they can learn and grow. So what we have is called a work plan. We don't really have like a school improvement plan title at that. This is our school improvement plan. It's a work plan, and we focus on those three areas. We focus on equity and inclusion, we focus on student engagement, and then student empowerment and learning. And I'm going to highlight all these areas today. I'll give you a few examples of just some of the successes that we've had over the past few years in all of these areas. And once again, we do this by being deliberate and by being accountable to the work that we're doing. As a principal and assistant principals, we have a work plan. Each of us have an individual work plan with tactics and strategies of what we're doing to hit our goals and targets. Every department chair, every department has a work plan, so we can hold each other accountable to the work that we're doing. Are we showing improvement in math and English and science and the elective areas? Those are things we want to know, and we do that by tracking the data and tracking the work that we're doing, not only from our leadership standpoint, but what we're doing in the classroom and making sure that everybody's on the same page to make sure that we're providing the best opportunities for our students. With equity and inclusion, once again, it just means that if a student has the same teacher in 9th grade English, we want to make sure they have equal opportunities for learning. They shouldn't be learning one thing in one English class and something different in another class. We do that through our work in PLCs. The engagement piece, once again, you saw the successes we had this year with our athletic teams and our clubs. We want our students involved and engaged in school, especially over the past couple of years. Like I said, it was very challenging, and we did everything we can to make sure we had those opportunities for our students. And then finally, the empowerment piece. We've been doing a lot of work around assessment and grading, making sure that our students are truly learning, and we're preparing our kids to exit York High School. Every student learns at a different rate, so we have to acknowledge that and make sure that we are providing those experiences so our students have those opportunities to learn. So you saw the work plan, the outline of the work plan, and now we have metrics. So these metrics are aligned to the work plan, and these metrics are the areas that we want to show growth, and we want to be deliberate with the work that we're doing. So our graduation rate, we look at that every year. Our freshmen on track. Our graduates who take at least an AP class. First semester passing rates, which is really important because that when our students have success first semester, they tend to have better success in the second semester, especially our freshmen when they come in. When they find success as freshmen, they tend to be more better prepared and find success when they leave York High School and enter college. And then students involved in school clubs, activities. We have a culture of engagement, involvement at York High School. We want to continue that. We want to grow that success, and we'll continue to focus on that area. And then graduates eligible for dual credit. One of the things that we are going to look for next year is looking at our SAT growth. That's another key component and piece that we really want to focus on and be intentional with. So we're going to look to add that for next year. So this is our metrics kind of in a chart format, and I apologize because it's not as big as it probably should be, but you can see there the green is the areas of growth over the past 2 years. Some of the data is not in yet. End of year data, the graduation rate for this year, we'll get that when our students are exited from Power School over the next few months. And then I'm sorry, I can't read the other one. Freshman, what is the second one there? Freshman on track. Okay, so we'll get that information here over the next couple of months. As you can see, though, we did see a little dip in AP this year, and that's okay. You know, we're still doing very well, providing opportunities for our students to take advanced placement courses. Obviously, with the pandemic and the challenges that our students faced, it was a big burden for them. So that's okay that we had a little bit of a drop there, but that will definitely be moving in a different direction for next year. And then you can see the other areas of growth with the the passing rates and students that are involved in clubs and sports and activities, and then students taking the dual credit there. This is just a chart you can see over the past 5 years of our first semester passing rates. Looking at the trends there, hitting 97% this year. Our goal was 98%. We came up a little short, but we still showed some nice growth there. And once again, we did this by really providing supports for our students, knowing that they experienced challenges during the pandemic, and really adjusting some of our instruction, some of our supports to make sure it was really tailored to the needs of our students, so it had an impact. And you can see that impact there. We implemented the Saturday Academy, we did the Winter Academy, or the Saturday School, the Winter Academy, really being intentional this past fall. One of the things we talked about early on is identifying students by name and need. So we're not waiting until December to say, oh, this kid's struggling. We're addressing it early on so we can address those challenges and provide the supports needed. And really identifying that and being intentional with the work. This is the AP slide, working with equal opportunity schools. I know Dr. Grenz shared this at an earlier board meeting, but you can see there we had some growth this year in our advanced placement numbers. What you see up there is really our junior and senior enrollment. That doesn't take into account some of our freshman courses where we have students that are enrolled in AP, but just with our juniors and seniors next year, seeing a little bit of a bump. And once again, we want to make sure that we're this was a challenging year, but we still saw that growth. And we're not trying to say every kid needs to take an AP. We want to make sure that every kid has an opportunity to take an AP if they wish to do that. It's really important because when they experience that high-level course, it prepares them not just for college, but for other interests after high school, whether it's a job, military, whatever that may be. Going through that experience of high rigor, problem solving, figuring out ways to get through a course that's a little bit more challenging, teaches them those skills that are really important when they leave York High School. So we're really excited about the work that we're going to continue to do with equal opportunity schools and just around providing those opportunities for all students to take higher level courses. And then this one we've all heard of. We've celebrated our athletic programs and clubs and activities this year, but we're really proud to have 4 state champions this year at York High School, which is an amazing accomplishment. Mr. Wagner and the coaches and Ms. Young and the athletic office do a tremendous job of balancing all that. And you can imagine all the changes and doubling up on sports seasons a couple years ago, and then still coming through and finding some great success there. That really is attributed to our coaches, our kids staying focused, being deliberate with their goals and what they want to accomplish, and we are very proud of them for having that great success this year. And then I just wanted to highlight a few other things here. York High School was ranked the top high school in the fall for fall athletics. That's a great accomplishment, given that there are so many competitive programs in the state of Illinois. so many great programs, especially in this conference. So that's a great accomplishment. Our Special Olympics team, 4th in state, that was amazing. It was amazing to see them and recognize them at the board meeting, the DuPage County board meeting a few months ago, and just to see the looks on their faces and the feeling of accomplishment was just, it was great. Our math team, 13th in state, the highest we've ever had. We had a student, David Izzo, who was next year going to be the president of the Illinois High School Student Council Association. So that is a great accomplishment and great recognition for David and also for York High School. And then our students performed ACE this year, and they worked with professionals from Broadway. So there is so much stuff to be excited about at York High School, and it's even going to be more exciting next year. And we continue to make improvements, and it's a collective effort from everybody in this room and our staff at York High School. So thank you for that, and we look forward to a great year next year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and all the accomplishments and improvements. And it's great. And it was a great graduation. So thank you to all of you that helped make that happen. It was a really nice day. So thanks so much. All right. Next, we have the West Suburban Middle School Athletic Conference. So we have the Churchville 7th grade track. So if those students would come up to the middle and stand here, you can. Is your coach here, or is your no? One of them. Yeah, you can come on up too. Yeah, we want you to come on up too. So yeah, come on up to the middle and face out so everyone can appreciate you and honor you. No, they're just lining up. So go ahead and do the recognition and then.
Coach, are you going to say a few things?
I'm always one to talk. Dr. Reader will tell you.
Usually you're first.
All right. Well, so I had was able to be one of the 4 coaches at Churchville. I usually coach the 8th grade girls, but I got to see the 7th grade girls every day come to practice. They were a spirited bunch that were always willing to work hard. And when we were preparing for conference, I know Coach Neckvital, Mrs. Neckvital was challenged you guys, right? She challenged you to do your best and to just go out there and keep having fun. And what happened was you guys placed second at conference, and a lot of you got individual ribbons. So I'm really proud of you. And I know I echo Mr. Grigmanis, Mrs. Check, and Mrs. Neckvital in saying that we're proud of you, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next year as 8th graders when I get to work with you more closely. So congratulations, girls.
Thanks, Coach, so much for saying a few words. Ladies, it's an honor and a privilege for me, on behalf of the Board of Education, to recognize you. This is a great accomplishment. It's great to have Churchville here. Great that you're 7th graders. Great things next year. And York is probably chomping on the bit trying to get you there sooner than planned. So congratulations. And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the West Suburban Middle School Athletic Conference provided an opportunity for students to compete against other schools in a variety of events from May 9th to May 10th, 2022 at Elmhurst University. And whereas the Churchville 7th grade girls team placed 2nd overall at the conference level. And whereas the following Churchville students earned top placement in their conference events: Tia Basic. Okay, there you go. I don't say it as fast as you do. Thank you, though. First place, discus. And 5th place, shot put. And Kimura clink scale. 3rd place, 200 meters. Layla Gustafson, 3rd place, 800 meters. Ella Hung, 3rd place, 4 by 200 meters relay. Maggie Lombardi, 5th place, 1,000 meter. And 2nd place, 4 by 400 meter relay. Lauren Mendiola, 3rd place for 4 by 200 meters relay. Heidi Neal, 3rd place, 4 by 200 meters relay. Abby Poynton, 3rd place, 100 meter dash. 2nd place, 4 by 400 meters relay. Elise Prangan, 2nd place, 4 by 400 meters relay. Eleanor Richardson, 4th place, 1,600 meter. 1st place, 800 meters. 2nd place, 4 by 400 meters relay. Whew. Madison Schaefer, 5th place, 400 meters and 4 by 200 meters relay. Liliana Schmidt, 4th place, long jump. Sarah Steinecker, 2nd place, long jump. 2nd place, 4 by 400 meters relay. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to District 205 and to the community of Elmhurst and District 205 community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Coach Grickmenis, who's not here, but you'll send that congratulations, and Churchville Middle School for this outstanding accomplishment. Thank you, ladies, and congratulations. Stay here because you'll get a picture with Dr. Campbell, and anyone who wants to take pictures, feel free to come up.
Say, grandma here now. So I said, leave me alone. Say, grandma here.
Thanks so much to all of you for coming out to support our students. And so we have one name on the public comment, but I'm not sure. Oh, hello. Sorry. Yeah, I would have missed it. National Award winner, the PTA Reflections Art Competition. So you can come on up. Yep. Happy to have you back.
Welcome. Welcome, Delilah. So the National PTA, in its effort to support arts education, created the Reflections Program. And by their definition, the Reflections Program provides opportunities for recognition and access to the arts, which boost student confidence and success in the arts and in life. So the theme this year was I Will Change the World by, and the film that Delilah submitted entitled Shop the World did move all the way up to the national level where it received recognition that Delilah should be very proud of. I hope you will continue to do more of this. There'll be lots of opportunities at York High School for you to continue your film career or anything else in the arts that you might want to try out. So congratulations. I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas each year, over 300,000 students in pre-K through grade 12 submit original works of art to the PTA Reflections program, and whereas a total of 288 entries representing 6 categories were received at the state level, 26 entries from Illinois advanced to the national level, and whereas Delilah Kamens, an 8th grade student at Churchville Middle School, was awarded a $200 Young Artist Scholarship, a silver medal, and a certificate of excellence for her film Shop the World, which was one of 900 entries that were judged at the national level. And whereas this accomplishment brings pride and prestige to District 205 and to the community of Elmhurst, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education and Administration of Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205 express deep appreciation and congratulations to Delilah, her parents, the PTA, and faculty members of Churchville Middle School for this outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations.
Everybody go. Everybody go. We get a picture.
National award. This is a big deal. Sister's talented. All right. There you go. Just like you like your sister. All right. Just get over here a little bit. 1, 2.
Perfect.
3.
Super cute.
We hope we'll see you back again next year. All right. Oh, the little guy. Yeah. All right. So next on the agenda, we have public comments. I've allocated 45 minutes for public comments. I only have one name on the list, and I think that they might have left. Anne-Marie Gustafsson. Oh, she is here. Okay, great. All right, so you have 3 minutes. We ask that you give your first and last name, and we'll tell you when you have about 30 seconds left. Okay, all right.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Anne-Marie Gustafson. My husband and I have 3 daughters in District 205. Our younger 2 attend Emerson Elementary, and our 7th grader is at Churchville Middle School. She was recognized here tonight. Like many busy parents with school-age children in multiple sports and activities, I've watched the board meetings throughout the year on YouTube, thanks to technology. Although, to be honest, I've mostly listened to them in the car while driving kids to and from swim meets or practices. But I have listened, so I would like to take this moment while here in person tonight to express my gratitude. Thank you to the board for your dedication and perseverance this school year. Thank you for supporting our students, teachers, and staff and allowing them to thrive. Thank you for listening to countless hours of public comments and for showing steadfast patience and grace. Thank you to our administrators for being communicative and transparent. Thank you for hosting the strategic planning focus groups, giving parents and Elmhurst community members the opportunity to contribute our opinions, provide positive feedback, and make connections to others within our community. Our particular focus group revealed the challenges the district faced with negative distractions and criticisms. Thank you for rising above and continuing the hard work. Most importantly, I would like to thank the incredible teachers in District 205. Thank you for focusing on your students and helping them achieve their goals. Thank you for your commitment to your students' success, your enthusiasm for their learning, and your compassion for their well-being. Rather than clean house, my hope is that District 205 will continue to open doors for our students and build bridges within our community. Thank you to everyone who has led by example this year. We are truly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Your kind words are very much appreciated. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is the approval of board meeting minutes. Item A is approval of regular board meeting minutes from the April 12th, 2022 and the April 26th, 2022 meetings. Are there any changes to those? Okay, hearing none, those stand as presented. Item B, approval of closed session minutes, April 12th, 2022, April 26th, 2022. Those stand as presented. All right, next up is we have one report and presentation tonight. So Todd Schmidt is here to do a facilities update.
That's not mine.
Yeah. They will come running in.
Good evening. On last week at the Finance Operations and Committee meeting, we did a facilities update. It was a pretty long presentation, a lot of great dialogue in there. Kind of sum it up, give you some highlights and some of the continuing talking points and next step items that we have for a couple of the agenda items out there. First off, I'd like to start off with Lincoln. It's just fun. It's really coming along nicely. We're putting all the casework and the cabinetry inside right now. Just about all the concrete's done out there. They started working on some of the landscaping. Right now, we're just pretty much doing all the finishes, putting the finishing touch on the learning stairs in there in that wonderful area, that space in the center of the facility. Classrooms are all done. We're going to start cleaning the classrooms. We have the technology already in there. We're going to go in there, clean those classrooms up, lock the doors, and wait until the new furniture starts to arrive the first week of July, roughly. Gym floor is just about already done. We got the new logo in there. Everything's painted. Final coat in there. Just waiting for the bleachers to come in there. It's a great facility. So if anybody wants to come out and see it again, it is pretty cool. We have the outdoor classroom done with the green space on there. This one on the right there is actually right there above the Lincoln sign as you come into the building. That's where this, right there on the right, that outdoor classroom is. One of two outdoor classrooms we have. This one right above the main office and another one right off of the makers and art space. And then we got a picture of the heritage wall with them finishing up some of the railing on the upper parts of it. All that casework. And it's a lot of labor intensive, so they've been out there for quite a while, but it's coming along really well. Some of the follow-up items we had at the facilities and operations meeting. The first thing we had was the York scoreboard replacement. Initially, we were looking at doing this this summer. This year, as part of our summer capital, we allocated approximately $100,000 for it. There was 3 different options out there, anywhere ranging from $130,000 to $160,000, which would be over our allocation that we have. So we're going to look at seeing if we can find some alternative revenue sources, either through donations or maybe some media things, and kind of look at it and then bring it back at a later date to the committee or to the board meeting as we look at this. Bryan gravel lot, we had a lot of conversation on that. With that gravel lot no longer being utilized by us since we purchased the other building up there on Fullerton Avenue, gave a couple different options of what we could do. Put some parking, leave it as gravel, put some green space and parking. So what we're going to do is this summer, once we finish up all the moves here, the first part of the end of the school year, is go out there and remove all the stuff what's left out there. The shrubs and the bushes that are really not nice. They're just kind of all over the place. The fence out there, we got a couple dumpsters still out there, and some electrical things. So we're basically going to give it a clean slate, kind of look at it there, and then go from there and see how we look at it. Some of the options were potential some parking and things like that. We're looking at potentially incorporating that, because the bus lane there in front of Bryan is scheduled on our life cycle for next year, so we could probably do something there. But the first thing is just to clean everything else out there and get it all off, and then kind of see where we're at with it. With the reviews for Bryan, Churchville, and Sandburg, as we look at for 2023, that's the next phase. We call it phase 4, I do believe. We're pretty much got the designs done for Bryan and Sandburg. We're within the allocation in the referendum for that. The team has met with all 3 of the principals for the library media zones over the last week, basically White and the interior designers. So we feel pretty good with that on that piece of it. Churchville, we're still working on that. With Churchville, as part of the referendum, is put an auditorium addition on there. And we're trying to look and see if we can make the auditorium more of a multi-purpose room, function as an auditorium, but also give them some other flexibility. Some of the things in there is where that auditorium is going, some of the elevation change and things like that. So we haven't really landed the plane on that, so that's why we didn't really present anything there. We're still working on it, but we are moving forward with the interior renovations for Churchville, which is redoing the main entrance for the office there to make that like all our other schools that we've done that work here for security, corridors, boiler rooms, technology, library media center. So we're working through on that one too. Once we get there at the field opening, groundbreaking today, we talked about it. We're going to follow up with the team next week, and same thing, come back here over the summer and bring it back to the board and to the committee of kind of where we're at with that. Last thing we have out there is what we talked about on the summer capital was Hawthorne. Hawthorne was improved drainage, asphalt, and we're looking at adding some synthetic turf out there. We allocated $350 in the summer capital. Our bids did come in last week. Only 2 bids come in. One was $440,000. One was $545,000. Both over our allocations. As we went through the scope review, the lowest bidder, as we go through everything with them, did include $82,000 worth of work, so that would have brought that up to $520 and then $540. So what we're going to do is kind of move this one off to next year and kind of reevaluate where we're at right now, because we still have to go through the permitting process, and we don't get too far into the game where we're trying to get something done just before school. So we're going to step back, we're going to reevaluate it, look at everything we have in there for the site work, for the synthetic turf, some of the other drainage improvements that we're doing out there, and kind of move that. If it is truly going to be higher than what we allocated, then we'll sit there and look at that into next summer's summer capital. That's it. I thought I had a last slide. But any questions?
Okay. Thanks for that. Any questions? Courtney?
So with the scoreboard and the gravel lot, I guess my questions are, what do you need from us? It sounds like the scoreboard, we've allocated this money and that we're going to work towards a relationship and securing funds for the balance of it. Is there any action you need from us? Because it's part of the summer capital stuff. And I guess the same thing with the Bryan gravel lot. We talked about a lot of different options. What direction do you need from us to move forward on the decisions on how you're going to proceed on those items?
Well, with the gravel lot, that's why we're going to start off with basically option 1. We're going to remove everything. If you look at the 4 options we had out there, is start with that first option where we just remove everything off there and kind of see what it looks like. And see, get that stuff done, do some more preliminary design work there for it, because a lot of those costs on there, there was really no construction documents. So we're going to get everything off there, clean it up, see where we're at, and then bring it back to the board with other recommendations as we move forward. So there's really nothing I'm looking for the board right now. It's more on our end to get it that clean slate, maybe that first option, see what that takes us to get it all cleared up, and then it gives us some time to look at the other options that we have out there.
Okay, as we talked about the finance committee meeting extensively, I think there was several voices of support for, making that an area that's, not the eyesore it's been for our community. And so I would encourage you to bring us back more, to give more to that area in the community, because I think it is a large space. I applaud the cleaning up of it, but I think they deserve more. And I'm interested in hearing what our next step is going to be. I love saving the parking spots until we repave next year for the bus zone. That completely makes sense to me. But I think that we can do more in that area. And so the same thing with the scoreboard, is that waiting to see what kind of collaboration and funds we can get to offset the balance of that purchase?
Yes, since, that time is seeing if we can find some additional revenue streams out there for different various things to bring it back to the board and then kind of look at it. And also with that, as with the scoreboard, I was informed that would have to go through a permitting process with the city of Elmhurst.
The scoreboard replacement?
Yes. It's through the ordinance. It's kind of gray exactly what it entails, but I've been in contact with the city planner. I guess we're not the only one looking at a scoreboard replacement here in the area, so she's going to keep me updated as soon as we know a little bit more in there, but that would fall on one of the ordinances, that whatever option we do finalize on, that would then have to go to be permitted through the city, just like
And so
the
adding
marquee.
that on to the 12-week lead time that you talked about at the finance committee meeting, I mean, that seems
Yes.
to be like
Yep.
time sensitive then.
Time sensitive. Odds are now, as we look with that information, it probably won't be done this year. The scoreboard out there, we have it working right now.
Yeah.
So as we look through that, as I learn more information, this is just information. As I was looking for some of the ordinances with the other things that we have out there with the neighborhood community out there with the lights and the sound, kind of talking with the city through all that stuff and getting that ordinance in there, looking at this ordinance is when that was brought to my attention on Thursday.
So essentially, we've got to work through that before we can make a decision, right?
Yes, and seeing from my understanding from the city, their attorneys are working on it. It's going to be covered under the ordinance. But what exactly is covered in there and what are the limitations of the scoreboard and things like that. So they haven't quite pieced that together.
So just so I'm understanding this, so the city is making an ordinance about the scoreboard, or
They say
restrictions
the
on
scoreboards are included in their signage ordinance.
Okay.
It's just a little vague on what the qualifications of what type of board, how bright, how long it's on, things like that.
Okay. Just since we're talking about the scoreboard, just something that, because some of these things were sort of talked about in the committee meeting, but I think it's important to look at some of those, if we were to move forward with something that had ad space, or like what is both board policy and then also the administrative procedure that's going to go with that, and where are those funds going to go and who's going to sell those ads. And I feel like there's a whole piece that shouldn't be worked out after the decision, but should be worked out ahead. So maybe while the ordinance piece is being worked out, that work could be done, because I think that those questions should be answered ahead of time. And also, I mean, I'm glad to hear you're working, we need to make sure the neighbors are aware and we're working with them and that we're a good neighbor. So, and also, do we have the camera facility, do we have the other technology to help with the scoreboard more than just the actual scoreboard itself? So,
Yes.
all those things will be things that I'm going to ask when you,
Yeah.
if you come
There's
back.
a lot of components
so
to
I'm just
this,
giving
so
you,
it's not as
it's more than
easy.
just a school, in theory it sounds simple, but there's a lot to consider. So,
Yes.
yeah, so that was one of my questions. So Karen.
And just to piggyback on that, I know we talked about it in the Finance and Ops Committee meeting, but staffing that's required and all of, so we can look at the total package, not just the scoreboard.
Yep. We'll definitely do that.
Just a question about Hawthorne around, you had mentioned, and I appreciate, the fiscal responsibility around just thinking it through and saying, hey, what do we really need to do here? And can we wait? Just a question around safety when we see things like replacement asphalt by play area. Can those things, even the improved drainage, wait another year in your opinion or in?
Yes, they can, because we looked at that. We do crack seal and pavement or sealing of our parking lots every year as part of our ongoing maintenance plan. So we're going to look at that to have our contractor come out there, look at, how many spider cracks are out there, how many cracks, see if it's going to seal and make sure it'll be okay for another year. So we're definitely looking at that. But first blush, it looks like it'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We are on to the consent agenda already. Would anyone like to, what? Already? Whatever. Does anyone want to pull an item? All right, then could I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda items: A, personnel report; B, financial report; C, York High School bookstore contract extension; D, approval D 205 communication messaging tool; E, York High School photography equipment donation; F, extended school year ESY staffing; G, approval of the property schedule addenda and ancillary documents under the master tax exempt lease purchase agreement with U.S. Bank Corp. in an amount not to exceed the current value of $1.32 million, and H 2022-23 breakfast and lunch fees.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Troutman, second by Mrs. Hassler. Please call the vote.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanitis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Caforio?
Yes, 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent, motion passes. All right, agenda action items. Item 1, approval of the 2022-2023 student handbook. If somebody from the administration could give a little background. Is that you, Dr. Rubenstein?
It is me, yes. So since the beginning of the school year, we have been meeting with a team of administrators to review comprehensively the student handbooks and to make sure that everything is in alignment and that things are clear and consistent across all 3 levels. So elementary and early childhood, the middle schools, and then the high school in transition. And so at this point, virtually every member of cabinet and almost every member of our district leadership team has reviewed the handbook and the language there. And so we're bringing it to you for your review and approval this evening. It contains 11 sections that are broken out there, really fairly comprehensive, aligned to board policy, many of which have been updated this year. And there might be some small modifications made to it after this evening to align with some things that occur in June that are brought before you in June, but relatively minor changes. So we would ask for your review and approval this evening.
Okay, could I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the updated student handbook for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, questions or comments? Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to all the work that has gone into this. Dr. Grenz, I believe it was right after you came to 205 that we started talking about this. And you started a very slow process during that first year as you were trying to understand our district and a new job and everything that that entailed. And to see in such a short time how significantly this has improved is a real tribute to the dedication and importance of this project. And I really just want to say thank you for tackling it, and the entire district team and all the principals and everybody who participated in it, because it is an overwhelming undertaking. And so just thank you for seeing this through. And it's always a work in progress, and that's great, but this is, this is the best we've ever seen it. And I personally just wanted to say thank you for just that extraordinary effort.
I appreciate those comments. Thank you.
And it's great to just have all the information in one place so our parents and our community can find it easily. And it's hard to digest all at once, but when you need it, you know where to find it, which is important. Can you explain where this will be located so that parents can find it?
Really good question. So after these are printed, so they're going to be printed for our high school students and for our middle school students, and they're a part of our student planners, our calendars that go out. And so they'll be included as a part of those. So our high school students and their parents will get them, and they'll sign off on them electronically in the first week of school. And then they'll be available on the website. And then all of our elementary school students will get them, they'll get sort of a summary of them, and then the parents will be asked to sign off on them electronically in that first week of school as well. That's a part of the board policy, but everything will be up and available on our website by the first day of school. So that's the overall goal.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to ask, so first of all, the handbook, I mean, it is very thorough. It's a lot of reading. And so thank you for the work on that, because it's come a long way, and that is very much appreciated, as Courtney spoke to. I just wondered, this is not the time to have this conversation, but we committed when some of the relearning and homework policies were put, or I should say procedures were put in at the high school, that we would revisit those and just kind of discuss effectiveness, and was there any tweaking that we wanted to have happen, and get some feedback. And so I was wondering if in the next school year, like during the 2022-2023 school year, could we maybe hear an update on that, and then have a discussion in how that is, if there's any tweaks that need to be made to that.
We can all speak to that.
I think we all lean forward.
So this is, as Courtney said, this is still a work in progress. So our plans for this are that we got this to this stage so that we can get it to print. And then the next piece really is to make sure that we keep up with all of the changes with board policy as they come through. So you'll see at the next policy meeting that all of that gets updated there. There are a number of things that we plan to bring forth. We've already started talking about, this is one of them, for review during the course of this next year. The whole purpose of the handbook is to communicate clearly and consistently so that we have something to go back to and point to say, this is how we do things here. There are a number of places in board policy where it says superintendent or designee or the principal will, and so this is where we define that.
Awesome. And I feel like the clarity and the communication is, hugely improved. And so that's great. So
I would just add that I think the timing is right. We made a lot of changes prior to 2020 that were the result of some student survey data that we gathered at the time, but we all know so much has changed in I think it's 3 years. It's almost 3 years, but it feels like a lot more. So I think that's opportunistic right now for next year for us to definitely look into the practices and procedures that are in place now, and to just keep continuously improving, no matter what. So.
Just one quick clarification. So if something does change, like, because the middle school kids and high school kids get the physical books, parents should know that it would be updated on the website link to it, right? So is that fair for them to know? So their hard copy might not be as up to date throughout the year if changes are made.
Right. So if there's something big that changes, like if there is some law that changes or something major that changes, we would send home a notification to all families and say that the updated version of the handbook is on the website, that sort of thing, during the year.
Okay, anything else? All right. Okay, please call the vote then.
Mrs. Arvanitis.
Yes.
Mrs. Hassler.
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman.
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen.
Yes.
And Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Motion passes. All right, item B, approval of resolution of the Board of Education directing the school treasurer to transfer funds from the Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. Mr. Welton, could you give us a little background?
This is a transfer we do every year in June. It's in accordance with the Illinois Program Accounting Manual, and it provides this transfer is from Fund 20 to Fund 60, so from the Operation Maintenance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund. It's for $4 million to fund the summer capital projects.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution to transfer money from the Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $4 million.
I'll second.
Any comments, questions? Okay, please call the vote.
Mrs. Hassler.
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanitis.
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman.
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen.
Yes.
And Mrs. Caforio.
Yes, 5 ayes, no nays, 2 absent. Motion passes. Item C, approve school year 2022-2023 Technology Department staffing recommendations. Mr. Gomez.
Yes, thank you. As you know, most of this year I spent a lot of my time reviewing the support structure of the technology department, which includes overall support structure, the individual roles, how are we providing service, how are we connecting with our staff and students. So it gave me an opportunity to look at it from the balcony level. And one of the first things that I really did early on from when I started is to establish my tech leadership team, my TLT team. And those are the mid-level supervisors that cover the information management team, the tech support team, and the network operations team. And by having established that team that we met on a weekly basis, that really allowed us to uncover processes and procedures that were probably not most effective, or that were done just because they've always been done. And so it really allowed us to unsurface a lot of those issues collaboratively. And it allowed for us to break down those silos between those teams, because they need each other. Even though they do different functions, they all need each other to support the operations of our district. So as we went on throughout the year, we began making some changes, restructured some roles. And by the time I came to give my board presentation in mid-March, I had identified some recommendations about where we could use some additional staffing. And as a few more months have passed by, and now that the year is coming to a close, and now having kind of gone through a full year, my tech leadership team and I kind of felt comfortable that we could do a phased-in approach and potentially not need a third FTE as I had originally had requested. So my request from TLT and myself is for 2 additional FTE to the tech department, 1 that would go to the information management team, and 1 that would go to the tech support team. And then we would reevaluate where we are at for the following year and potentially not need that additional FTE. And a lot of this is due because of the efficiencies that we've been able to do redo some of the processes and procedures, and just really what is relevant in today's time. Some of those processes are from past, from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that just were never updated.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the 22-23 technology staffing recommendations as presented.
I'll second.
Questions or comments? Karen?
Rudy, when you talk about the information management person, FTE, you're talking about someone who will additionally work with Anna with our research and help with the buildings, with their student data.
That's exactly what this role will do. It'll actually support all the various departments because there's been an increase in data mining. That data is especially essential for our buildings to have in a timely manner. But yeah, so we'll heavily work more closely with our learning and teaching department.
So learning and teaching, research and development, right, with Anna?
Yes.
And then with the principals, assistant principals, and the teachers groups that are doing the data.
That is correct.
Which is awesome. I mean, it shows the interconnection of, all the various departments have their role, but it all comes together, and this kind of highlights it. Okay.
We support all the various departments, yes.
Yeah, okay. And then second question, did your staff install the Clever Touches at the elementary schools?
They installed a few, but it wasn't efficient for them to do all of them. It was very labor intensive. So we were able to subcontract out to have a vendor come and do all the building of the carts, the installation, and the delivery to all the different schools.
But you're talking about the other FTE will be the support of the buildings that would know that Clever Touch intimately to help with the instructional coaches and the teachers with that new device that are in.
Yes, that will provide more time for them to spend working with the teachers at the elementary schools.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything? Courtney?
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to really evaluate all of the different positions and how you can make the most of the people that we do have and get everybody working together. And that data from our students is so important in the work that we're trying to do in pinpointing what our students need and helping them to be successful. So I feel that's really important. And then when we're putting things like the Clever Touch screens in place and investing in those, it's really good to have the support behind it so that we can use them in the best way possible and get the most out of those as well. So I appreciate that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So when I first saw this, I'll just be completely honest. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're spending more money, right? It was my first concern. And then when I read through it and thought through your presentation and the conversations we've had since you've been here this past year, the thing that stood out to me and why I'm supportive of this is because, we've seen requests for enhanced personnel in this department over the years with no clear focus on what those positions were going to do. And we also saw those requests paired with a department that kind of really didn't have clear direction. And so that coupled with the fact that you took the first 6 months here to really not only just look at what your team looked like, but to reevaluate it and make it more efficient and make them work to their full potential and every position work to their full potential, gave me confidence that you really did have a clear understanding of what you were able to accomplish now, what we need you to accomplish, and how to get that done better. So I want to thank you for taking the time to really come back with a thoughtful request for what you need to accomplish with everything that we are and that's going on in our buildings technologically. You know, Karen mentioned it, like, you know, all the smart boards that are going into all these awesome new facilities that we're building. If we can't support that and the teachers in the classroom, then really kind of what's the point? So I just wanted to say thank you, and I really appreciate the time you put into making this a thoughtful request.
Thank you.
I know, you know, whenever we approve a staffing, you know, it's an ongoing expense versus a one-time expense. So we tend to get a little you know, jittery, as you know. So, you know, but I think something that, you know, we are so focused on is instruction and helping our students grow. And so it's easy to think about, well, how does somebody in the technology department necessarily support instruction? But if you're in a classroom where the Clever Touch isn't working and the teacher had the whole lesson planned on that, and it's because the cord wasn't in or it didn't, like, that is lost instruction time. So I think help supporting our teachers so that they can teach and support learning is what this is about. And we definitely have been talking a lot about data and how important that is, and wanting that real time for our principals and our teachers, so that, again, back to helping students improve outcomes. So that's why, even though it's kind of, you know, it feels a few steps away, but it's important, and it does go right back to the classroom and supporting classrooms and kids. So thank you for being thoughtful about it. I appreciate that. So anything else? All right, we can call the vote.
Mrs. Hassler?
Yes.
Mrs. Troutman?
Yes.
Mrs. Arvanitis?
Yes.
Mrs. Stufen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Caforio?
And Mr. Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know he came back. Mr. Kaczynski?
It's like I was never gone. Yes.
We have six ayes, no nays, one absent. Motion passes. All right, superintendent's communication. Item A, future focus strategic plan update.
Welcome, Mr. Kaczynski, and just taking a time check that it is now 8:27, and we are heading into the final portion of our agenda for tonight. But so glad that you are here with us. Future focus strategic planning update. The strategic plan committee met actually 2 weeks back to back. And I think that that's really important to note, that we had 40 community members from various sectors across our community to make a commitment to come together for over 2.5 hours to talk, to look at, to review the community data that was collected, and to really use and review the data results of not only the focus groups as well as the community survey, to continue to go through a very thorough, deep data dive of the qualitative and quantitative information that had been collected. So I think it's, again, worth noting how fortunate we are here as in Elmhurst Community Unit School District 205, the level of engagement and the level of commitment that was displayed. So our community planning committee met on May 12th and then on May 19th. And as mentioned, utilizing the data, the committee began to form an outline of what will become the portrait of a graduate that we will then engage the Board of Education in, as well as district administrators, to guide the next phase of the strategic plan process. For purposes of tonight, I will just highlight, just high level, according to the data that received regarding the current state of our district, there were several areas that were perceived to be district strengths, and I want us to just acknowledge that. Going back to the previous conversation that we just transitioned from, being technology and the integration of technology within our classrooms. Another thing which I think is so relevant to tonight and to the statement that our board president started off, is that our district schools are safe. Another area that's worth celebrating, as we've heard tonight, with the decision of transferring funds to our summer capital, continue our summer capital projects and the upkeep and the improvement of our facilities, in addition to the commitment that our community has already stood behind as it relates to the referendum project, is another strength that came up was that our facilities are well maintained. And then we also know that the actual secret sauce to it all is in the talent of our staff. And so that another strength that was elevated in our community survey and focus groups is that the district employs effective teachers, administrators, and support staff in our schools that directly service our students. We also heard tonight from our principal of York High School the involvement and the engagement of our students. And we know student engagement actually speaks to their level of involvement in extracurricular or co-curricular activities. Would you know that District 205 additionally received feedback that some of our top rated programs in the district was fine arts, extracurricular, intramurals and athletics, library and other resources, advanced placement, talent, and our gifted programs. So I wanted to just pause and to acknowledge that once again, there's so much to celebrate and so much pride to demonstrate across our entire school community. And I want to pause and thank the Board of Education for your continued leadership, for those of you that have served multiple years and have really multiple terms and years, and your commitment, because I think this data is reflective of our continuous improvement and continuous growth and achievement over time. We also know that this data really also elevated some opportunities, because there still are opportunities for continued growth and improvement in meeting the needs of all of our students. And so I want to just share a few of the opportunities that were also highlighted in the data, that preparing students, a priority that our district and community members actually expressed, is preparing students to be ready for the next grade level and ultimately college and career ready. We know that we appreciate the staff, but they also mention hiring and retaining quality teachers and administrators, ensuring a well-rounded experience for all students, addressing students' social and emotional needs, and then continuing to provide a safe environment for our students and our employees. So there was very rich conversation as we continue to internalize and analyze the data that was received, and we will continue this process by then moving forward and coming back and engaging the board in conversations around the portrait of a graduate. My second highlight, and I appreciate and thank Ms. Daniels for having this on the screen. I want to remind our community that tomorrow, actually, at Elmhurst Library, I will be hosting a 2022 year in review meet and greet session. For those of you that remember on the onset and the start, actually prior to my July 1st start date, I engaged in 3 meet and greet community events where we met at each of the middle schools. And I shared in those community meet and greets my top 3 priorities at the time. Boy, had no idea how important those priorities would be. But I said at the top of the year in those various meet and greet sessions that I wanted to, and just think back to June, to ensure 5 full days of instruction for all students in all schools, all year. I also mentioned in those meet and greets that I wanted to really, again, connection, to focus on connections and really strengthening more specifically our communication across our district and across our community, and really allowing that connection, that communication to cultivate positive relationships. And then thirdly, I shared that I wanted to celebrate and demonstrate the strength and pride in D205 students and staff and schools. So for those of you that have not signed up, you still have opportunity to come tomorrow and to engage in a less than an hour of me sharing some really highlights and some specifics as to how those 3 priorities were attended to, not only by myself, but by our entire team, as well as the Board of Education. So that meet and greet, year in review will happen tomorrow morning. We have a morning session at 9 a.m. as well as a evening or early evening session at 5 p.m. at Elmhurst Public Library, 125 South Prospect Avenue. And if you haven't had the opportunity to register, all you have to do is go to our homepage, our Elmhurst District 205 homepage, and you can click on a link and you can register to be a part of this continuing conversation, but really to look at the progress that has been made in 1 year regarding the 3 areas of priorities that I committed to our school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, I mean, you've done a lot of work. I mean, you, wow, it's good. It's good. All right, the next item is the Freedom of Information Act request.
1 FOIA request for transportation information was granted. 1 FOIA request for teaching position staff names was granted, and 2 FOIA requests for learning materials granted.
Okay, social media highlights.
Cause you feel like home, you're like a dream come true. But if by chance you're here alone, can I have a moment before
Well done. Thank you. All right, board communications. Anybody have anything? All right. So we have upcoming meetings. Date correction, June 1st, 2022, Policy Committee meeting here at 5:30 in District 205 Center. And June 14th, 2022, regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting here at 7 o'clock. And we have come to the end of the agenda, so we are adjourned.